right, I'll call the meeting to order. Can you guys on Zoom hear us? Excellent.
Yes.
I don't believe there's anyone from the public. Is there? So, thank you. No public comment. All right, GHD updates. Lauren, it's all you.
Awesome. Okay, let me share. I just have a little extension of the agenda today.
I would love these large things to do.
Okay, I'm gonna get my screen situated. Okay. Can everyone see my screen I'm sharing?
Well, intellectually speaking, we can, but I don't know if I could read it. But
Oh. Hopefully, okay, maybe I can make it bigger. Okay.
There you go.
There. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So CPC meeting today, this was just the brief agenda. So what we were focusing on today was the schedule for the treatment plant, as well as the pre-qualification process. This is actually a little bit of what we covered earlier today in our bi-weekly or weekly meeting with the town and Apex. So first, I guess I'll briefly go over the pre-qualification process. I know definitely a few in the room are very aware. We do have from the town, Peter Wade and Kim St. Aubin on the committee, as well as Jackie Tupper and Ziad Carey from Apex, and myself and Sandy Tripp from GHD. Kim has graciously offered to be our committee chair, but for the most part, GHD handles a lot of the information. I know, Jackie Beebe, you're probably getting a bunch of emails right now. We had to include you as the town manager, but Laura Muir from our office is getting all of those submittals as well. So feel free to send them on to us if you want, and we can just double check that we've gotten everything. Definitely can't hurt to have more eyes on it.
We're also just starting to receive physical packages.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
We're going to stack those up in Shana Brogan, our procurement officer's office for now. And
okay.
So
yeah.
Ready.
Wonderful. Yeah. And so because of the holidays and how everything fell, typically you'll normally give about 2 weeks for the contractors to go through this pre-qualification process. Most of them already do have this information pretty much set up, and they just have to change a few things for the project. But because the holidays, we are giving basically a full 6 weeks. So it got notified in the Central Register on December 3rd, and they don't need to submit everything until January. Actually, I believe it's January 13th, the same day as our next CPC meeting. So they've got, 6 full weeks, and we decided to give a couple extra days, just worrying that, right after the holidays, if we had it due the 5th or 6th, that, if they need to FedEx it or something and they didn't pay attention to it over the holidays, they might not get it done. So hopefully this is plenty of time for contractors to put their information together. So we did have our kickoff meeting with the committee, distributed minutes, and we've sent out meeting invites for the next meetings. Basically, it's the pre-qualification meeting that's open to the contractors, and that is on December 16th and will be held at the town hall. And Erica is basically been CC'd on all those, so she can help coordinate the room. And we also have the meeting that will be on the 13th, I believe it's the 13th, to open all of the packages witnessed by the town, someone at the town, and start to go through all those pre-quals. So we have, like I mentioned, posted in Central Register. Kim has sent it to the newspapers. It's been, is or will be put into the Provincetown Independent, as well as the Cape Cod Times. It's been posted at the town hall, and then we're working on getting it posted in Combis. I know Shana, being on vacation, we're hoping to have her do it right when she gets back, and we are checking it on the website. Yep.
Lauren, I think she's back tomorrow.
Oh, so. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, feel free. if she needs any more information tomorrow, we can check in. And then these were just some notes. We're going to have a meeting to discuss the overall pre-qualifications or the overall bidding schedule, how it relates to each other, because between the wastewater treatment plant and the collection systems contracts, there will be a bunch of things going out, close to at the same time. So, I guess any questions on the pre-qualification process to this point?
Lauren, if the town already got the packages, did you mention there was going to be an addendum?
Oh, yes. So there is going to be an addendum. It should be fine for any of if they're filed subbids, it should be fine. And actually with the contract, it should be fine too. So what the addendum will reflect is that we had left out listing miscellaneous metals and ornamental iron subbids. So that is getting put out as an RFQ to those contractors. And obviously it won't affect the other filed subbidders, but it will be something that the contractors will have to keep in mind. Since it's not going out to bid at this point, it's not like they need to take anything away from their bid or something like that. So we'll be sending an addendum and sending that out to Shayna and Kim and Kayla to update everything as necessary.
Lauren, I have a comment on the pre-qualification timeline. Even though this is an activity that can happen concurrent with the design and then bidding, but based on Mass General laws and previous experience, this is a 10-week activity, and I know you have it condensed a little bit into 6 weeks, I think. But again, it's really not impacting the schedule because it can be done in conjunction with the final design or can be done with the bidding. But just so we have some room for error there, I think it should be somewhere around 10 weeks as opposed to 6. But that's the thought. And we have some other comments on the schedule, but I'll let you finish and then we'll maybe dive into the schedule a little deeper.
Yeah. I guess I would just ask exact dates that you're referencing for that so we can compare. So that was the most, I'm pretty much onto that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the preparation and the request for qualification. Usually they allow about a week for that, the advertising and submission period, and they allow about 3 weeks. Evaluation of the SOQs and the pre-qualification of contractors, that's about 4 weeks, and then the issue of the pre-qualification and then the short list, that's about 3 weeks. That really came from Mass General laws, and we've been using this all along on other projects, but I'll send you this so that way you have it along with the other comments on the schedule. But
are you talking about the pre-qualification meeting minutes?
This is the whole pre-qualification package from start to finish. And again, that's really not impacting the schedule in the sense that, like I mentioned, it could be done as you're doing the design, right? I mean, if we're doing this as a separate standalone thing, as you continue to do the design, as we're reviewing, so it's really not impacting anything, but that whole duration for that activity should be about 10 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll look at the schedule that we had in the pre-qualification minutes, and we can compare and contrast.
No, actually,
Oh, in the back.
this is this.
I'm going too far.
It's a small print.
Regulation.
It's a second paragraph down on the back sheet.
Is this the one that you're talking about, Ziad?
Yeah, and again, it's the breakdown, kind of follows the Mass General laws. I don't think we shared this with you. This is based on the discussion that you just had at 1 o'clock, and then we kind of compared the schedule together, since we left that meeting.
Yeah.
I think we'll be happy to share.
Okay.
At the end of the day, this is not where the concern is. The concern obviously is with the schedule in general, but this one here is just to make sure that we have enough time for the file submitters and for the general, I guess, contractors to make sure that they have all their work, all their ducks in a row.
So are you, I guess, just to make sure, we can always touch base on this after, are you saying that it is the, okay, now I'm looking at the wrong thing.
What you have here is like evaluation report. This is by us and you. Not so much with the process of the pre-qualification, right? If I'll email it to you after this.
Okay.
Day.
Yeah,
Right.
I just want to make sure I've got that right, because obviously this is the point where we can, make adjustments and, make sure everything is in line with what it needs to be. So yeah,
Right.
feel free to send me that. Yeah, and I've got my nice designing and constructing public facilities printout to reference as well. Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about the pre-qualification meetings. If you might have saw that I brought up some of the meeting minutes, and I guess I can share those really quickly again. Sorry, I've got a bunch of files open. No, maybe that closed. Okay. But I guess I'll get right into it. So I mean, I think the big dates were obviously December 16th and January 13th for that, and we can work with Ziad to figure out what might need to be changed there with this upcoming schedule. So the one thing that I did want to share is the initial design schedule, we had bid ready documents coming out in mid-January. We did review the schedule and backed into the dates, and we did end up having a little bit of float there that we would like to take advantage of to have a little bit more time for us to finalize the drawings, for Apex to review, and the town to provide any final comments. So this again was, Jackie Tupper and I had briefly talked about this on Friday, but this was really the time to go over it. If there's anything that we're missing as far as something with the town, needing to vote on anything or anything like that, or get something in their hands, this is a time where we can adjust these dates. From our meeting at 1:00, it looks like we believe we've considered most everything except that one item Ziad mentioned. So at this point, we're looking at having bid ready documents, so plans and specs from the wastewater treatment plant side. Obviously, the collection system is a little different. They don't have to follow the pre-qualification process. We're planning on having those at the end of February, so February 25th, basically having them a week before the advertisement of bids, which would be on Wednesday, March 4th, pardon me. And this is, and I think maybe this is where Ziad saying we need maybe 10 weeks between the contractor and the filed sub bids. But this is what we're looking, opening filed sub bids on or around March 31st, sending the canvas of bids to the GCs, the pre-qualified GCs on April 2nd, and then opening the GCs bids on April 15th. From there, we'd give the recommendation of award to the town, and the town would request SRF to get the authorization to award. One thing we have been talking a lot about on our weekly meetings is that all of this really hinges on us getting all of the permits approved predominantly through Mass DEP, and we're still working through some of those. So, and we're actually looking to meet with the DEP soon to, basically have them work with us as much as possible to meet all of our deadlines and SRF deadlines. So once we get the SRF authorization to award, we can award to the contractor. And our goal obviously is to have construction contracts signed and executed by June 30th. This schedule puts us a couple weeks ahead. Maybe that's not the case once we get down into the details, but that's what we're looking to do, have a little bit of float for ourselves, just for the what ifs. So I guess any comments on that, or Ziad, I think this is what you were mentioning.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to comment a little bit on this. So obviously we did the same thing, Lauren. We basically started with June 30th, and that's when you need to have a contractor on board. and you have to have a contract in hand and kind of backed into where we need to be at this stage of the game, right? So, and again, I'll be happy to share the schedule that we put together, and it has 3 phases or 3 tasks. One of them, which is the most critical one, this is where we are today with the design, right? And I think this is where we a little bit differ on the timing and the execution of this final design document. So we're coming up on the holiday. We did mention that your office will be closed for about 2 weeks, but some people would be working, which is a little bit, to me, it's like when a lot of people are off, not a whole lot gets done in the interim. So we did look at the 90% as discussed at the 1 o'clock meeting. And the 1%, the 90% that was submitted, granted that you have an updated version coming up here soon. The fact remains that some of the disciplines are lagging and they need some work before we get to that point. And I think this is all well and good if you say that we're going to advertise on Wednesday, March 3rd, but it's all pending DEP's authorization to advertise, right? So they
Correct.
need to
Yep.
give us authorization to advertise, and the only way they do that is when we have all the permits in hand, I'm guessing. And they have final sign off from DEP Southeast on the technical review of the document. So there is a TWMP here, obviously, for this. And most communities with either CWMP and TWMP are subject to DEP review by the technical folks at DEP. And that review process is pretty lengthy and time consuming. Add to it the fact that we have the SW37, which we talked about, 55 days. And then you get the WP38 or WP83, which is the hydrogeologic report. If there's a deficiency in this, you could probably be up to 90 days, right? And that's, I think, where the float is probably going to disappear.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yes, yeah. So, yeah, if you remember, I had included all of those timelines, either the shortened timelines, if everything went well, or the extended ones in the original schedule that I had put together. And it's definitely something that we need to deal with. I know Jeff mentioned today us trying to schedule a meeting with DEP to try to get them to work with us as much as possible to review the hydrogeo and the groundwater discharge permit concurrently, if at all possible. But you're right, even with the solid waste permits that we have to do and you guys have to do for the pump stations, there's definitely a lot of permitting that needs to get ironed out. And as Jackie Tupper mentioned, we're still waiting for the PAC from SRF. So you're right, there is a lot of what if. So this is, I guess I'll preface it with the ideal, assuming everything, comes out correctly. We didn't really talk about it, but you can do certain things at risk, but that really is a further discussion with the town that we could have. But I don't know if we're quite ready to have that yet.
Well, I think the risk, the bidding at risk is probably the last resort. Do we want to be in this position? This is a 4-year contract. We don't want to sour the relationship with DEP. As is today, they're on edge, especially when you start to ask for an extension, and they drop in people like flies. And if we're in this position, I think I probably quit if we're in this position, honestly, because it's not a good position to be in if we're not ready and if they're going to drop us, and because the funding will become unsurmountable, right? Because now you're borrowing 0% or 2% as opposed to going up on the open market, and the public will have a blast with this one. So let's hope we don't get to that point. I think the key here is, I feel like there's also the review, the 100% design and the review to be able to be ready by, let's see here. You want to notify the central register on the 2nd of February. That means we could work till, I think you wanted to.
No, that's February 25th.
I'm sorry, yes, February 25th, right. So the design has to be done about a week or 2 prior to that. Is that what the plan, maybe?
So our internal plan is to actually have everything finalized by January 30th, I believe, working that out with the BIM team and the design team. But that's our plan.
Right.
To have that pretty much settled and then, go into any final, commentary. Obviously we could have a meeting to discuss everything with the town and Apex to review any remaining details. I know right now, I shared earlier at the 1 p.m. meeting, we've done the clash detection in Revit, in the Revit model that I know I've shared a few times at, I think, some of these meetings. So we've gone through that. We're also doing our constructability review and having our QA/QC staff from each discipline go over the drawings and specs. So, like we've said, it's a tight schedule and it is really dependent on getting all those permits in. So yeah, we're looking at probably that January 30th to have the package set and then be doing final edits.
Yeah, and that kind of leaves us with just about, following the holidays, you're probably looking at a month. We need to, as I mentioned early on, we started the review of the 90% that you already submitted. I know you have another version coming up, so we want to be able to review that. And then obviously the 100%, refine the cost estimate because there's a gap between our estimate and yours. And to that point, I think what we're going to do with 90% review comments, we're going to send you our estimate, and you need to kind of review it along with yours and then come back to see what the delta is. So we did try to kind of break it up by discipline to see where, we could point out to certain things, but I think we'd like to get your opinion as to, there's a $27 million gap, as you know.
Yeah,
And-
so I just
Yeah.
got the package yesterday, and I'm guessing we're going to talk about it a little bit in this meeting. So, we've looked at it a little bit. There's a couple of things that we'll look at, and I think by and large, if you look at it, it's all of the contingencies. There's a little bit of a difference in the overhead and profit and general conditions that the contractor is putting on. So, I think there's some definite things that we can discuss with it, whether it's with Apex or with TCI, and kind of come to an agreement. I know that we won't be able to show, 30% or more contingencies on the SRF. So, I think we'll, have to look at how they describe some of that, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, and just to throw it out there, I looked into Dennis. It's a very similar treatment plant to this. A little over 1 MGD, I think, in SBR, and this was bid. It's in construction today, and it was bid a little over a year and a half ago, and it was about $80 million, right? So just want to make sure that before we get to the point, at least we have that number reconciled.
Okay. Yeah. And I know we've got our own examples of, things are a little bit cheaper. So I think, if we kind of look at everything, and we've worked with TCI before, and, I think we've had some give and take, we've seen them to be a little high, but again, they're also, I'm not sure if they're following like an AACE class 3 or 2 estimate, showing their contingencies. And I know they were also looking at the 60% design, as opposed to the more complete 90%. And I know we did send it a little bit later, but we do have the equipment vendor quotes available. And if there's any more, I wish they would have actually, if they had given us the list of all of them, we could have probably figured out a little earlier. But if there's other things that they're looking for, we're more than happy to share those so they can refine their costs.
Yeah, we could, if you have that, I don't know. Did you send all the equipment costs? I know you sent some, right? But
we sent, we loaded a bunch of them to SharePoint. If there are specific ones that they are still looking for, we can look through our files. The one thing that we are waiting for is we were getting an updated cost or updated quote from Aqua Aerobics for the bulk of the SBR equipment, and that's like to the tune of $3 million or something. So I told Jackie as soon as we get that, we'll upload that as well. But we did have a quote from another company, and we had an old quote from them, but wanted to get a new one.
Yeah, and like I said, we could make TCI available to have a offline discussion to see where that delta is and how we can reconcile it. And we consider that part of the interview process, right? So.
Yeah, more than happy to meet and go through that. Okay, well, I
Okay,
think that was a lot. Oh,
To follow up on Ziad's comments, I'll be a little bit more direct. Where we are now really isn't acceptable. This is a $170 million contract and we're paying GHD $5.5 million at around there, I think. Over the last, year and a half, going on 2 years to have this to this point. We appreciate the work, but I'm gonna offer you a constructive criticism and suggestion that you can take or bring back to your bosses. But it's at this point not acceptable that people taking 2 weeks off over the holidays with this level of commitment and this amount of money at risk if we don't meet these deadlines. So my expectation is GHD is full out for the next 2-3 weeks or up through January even to get this done. So if people have to work over the holidays, then they need to work over the holidays. And TCI and Apex and the town are all available during this time to meet with you to pull these things together. And I think GHD needs to pull them together.
yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. It's a corporate thing that, I can't really control. We do have a number of staff that actually do want to work over the shutdown. So we actually go forth. I just sent it out to the team yesterday to document all of the team members who will be working over the holidays. I'm not going to press anyone to work on Christmas or New Year's, if they don't have to. But, we do understand how critical this is to the town and to, getting that $170 million. We do really realize that. I will be available. I mean, if you want to call me on Christmas, I'm totally available. But I will be available the entire time. Feel free to, I think most people on the call know if they want to call me or text me, feel free. And I can bring that back.
We get an update. The issue is with, some other discipline that has to tighten up whatever they need to tighten up, whether it's electrical or otherwise, and it's in QA/QC. So I think the QA/QC people and the other discipline people need to get moving.
They're the ones we're worried about, Lauren, not you.
Okay. No, we totally agree that electrical was behind. I know some of the things that I mentioned today, a lot of times, like with structural design, a lot of times they don't like to put the rebar into the design until everything is completely done and there's no chance of moving walls or buildings or anything, walls, buildings, tank walls. So a lot of that stuff is typically later in the game. But yeah, I will take that back, and I do take it to heart, and that's why we're definitely doing as much as we can, or whether it's over our break or otherwise to get this done. And I don't mind direct, Rich. I sometimes think that's better.
And I also, Lauren, not to pile on, but I know that permitting isn't on our list today to discuss. It's not on the agenda, but Rich and I are having a permitting meeting with the Cape managers and the county next
DEP.
Thursday with DEP. So I would love to know before that meeting what the status is of our groundwater discharge permit so that we go into that meeting knowing whether we're pushing or.
Well, more than that, we really want these permits submitted by next week.
Yes.
So are you meeting with Mass DEP water or solid waste? Or just overall?
Wastewater.
Wastewater, okay. Yeah, I know that Jackie and I were trying to have a meeting with them. So as far as the groundwater discharge permit, we have a draft that is basically set. We are currently, and actually I can bring that up from our meeting earlier today if you want. We can go over the details.
You can just tell us. That's all right. You don't need to-
Okay, sorry. So the groundwater discharge permit is basically drafted. Essentially, it's a compilation of the basis of design information as well as basically answering specific questions, adding specific details relative to, I want to say it's even like USGS drawings, things like that. So we have our draft basically set. Like I said, we're looking over the application and the application online. We do need Apex to finalize their basis of design for the pump stations as well as the drawings and specs for those. We essentially have to have that all together to present to DEP as one package. There are certain ones, like you mentioned, the SW37, we will be submitting separately because essentially they're on different parcels and they're not related, but there are certain ones that we have to submit together. So I will check it. I know we're planning on, regardless, of what information we get on the landfill, wanting to get the SW37 out next week. And I will look at, the potential of the groundwater discharge permit. But again, that one I know needs a little more
How long
coordination.
How long does it take for the DEP to analyze and approve a groundwater discharge permit?
There is the,
It feels like we're late.
We've been talking about it for a month.
Yeah,
it could, if there's technical deficiency,
Yeah.
it could go up to 90 days.
Okay.
And there's like 15 days of administrative review and then 30 days of technical review.
okay.
And what would the issue be with getting that out next week if Apex was to get you what you need from them?
So my understanding is we're submitting separate, right, Jackie? So our portion is going up, uploaded separate to DEP, Lauren. For the
That's
pump stations.
as far as I know, when we and now I'm mixing up with CZM. As far as we know, that all gets put together as one comprehensive package for DEP to look at, because they need to understand, the entire system of how, the collection system area, how the pump stations essentially, funnel into each other and lead to the treatment plant. So as far as my understanding and, from what we've been talking about, that all has to be submitted together. We do know for the SW37, it's on different parcels, so that one is separate. But as far as it's the same thing with the CZM. When we met with them, they wanted everything together for the pump stations and for the treatment plant. So although I will say, if that's part of why we want to have the meeting with DEP, where GHD could be in attendance, because we are willing, if Apex doesn't have their portion ready with the pump stations, we are willing to submit ours, in a partial sense.
So to give you a little bit of an update, so we finished the BODR and now we're trying to, we had the survey delayed on the pump station, so we have that. Now we're trying to wrap up the design for the pump station, so we include that in the submission. That's the only thing that's holding us up. But the BODR has been completed, excuse me. And I think what's the timeline on Jackie on the pump station? Brian's working on today, right? Yeah. So.
That was the meeting Hillary and I had with them. So we had the discussion. We are trying to have the waiver so that they can review that permit at the same time as the hydrogeo. And then at least in our conversations, it was them keeping it separate so we wouldn't delay each other.
Oh, okay.
They were only interested in the plant. They didn't care about the piping. So I was trying to get a separate piping permit so that we could go out to bid before the plant. So they agreed to do that, handle it differently, but we'll follow up with it.
Okay.
Like you said, a good meeting.
What's the holdup with GHD submitting its submission, Apex aside? Is that something that can happen next week
So
on groundwater discharge?
I want to tell you yes, Rich, but I want to check in with the team before I give you a final answer. Honestly, the reason that we didn't submit it is technically you have to wait for approval on the hydrogeo before you submit the groundwater discharge permit. So that's why we were looking to have a meeting scheduled with DEP to be able to go through this. Unless Jackie, and maybe I misunderstood that if they said that we could do this concurrently already.
Yeah, yep, they already approved it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I must have misunderstood that. I mean, we still want to have a meeting with them to go over everything, but I will do everything in my power, Rich, and get with the team and try to submit this as soon as possible.
We want to move on, Jack? To Apex?
We also with Lauren, or want to discuss the 90%? Quick. Okay, so just the timeline, Lauren, on the 90%, we do have a draft of what, a draft review of what you submitted upon. So you're going to give us the, an updated version on the 15th, between the 15th and the 19th. Is this still, considered 90%?
I would say, yeah, it's just a more defined 90%. I guess I wouldn't necessarily, call it final.
And then you're looking for feedback by January 6th or, I forget, January.
Yeah, I believe Tuesday, January 6th, assuming that works for your team.
Okay, like I said, that's a little bit tight, but, we are in the position here that we need to push it through, obviously, so. We'll do what we can on our end. I think that,
Any comments?
that's right, yeah, the 60% comments and the 30% comments, you're going to finalize them and send them to us, right?
Sorry, I wasn't planning on talking as much more. Yeah, so I did mention that the logs are up on the SharePoint site. And yeah, my apologies as far as getting the formal letter out. Honestly, it doesn't have more necessarily than the logs, other than responding to the items in the letter. But yes, that is up on the
Well, I
SharePoint
think-
site.
I just didn't see it.
Oh,
Well, you don't have anything on 30%, and then what was uploaded for the 60% is like half completed. And most of the comments just say to be addressed or discussed later.
yeah, there probably, since that was done a while back now, it probably does say that. It is something that we could update further based on this, rather, so essentially it's maybe the 90% review comments rather than, necessarily the 60, but that's where we were at the 60%. So we can further evaluate those comments, Jackie, definitely.
Well, not all the 30% comments were contained in the 60% question. So don't you have to respond to all of them?
Yes, we do have that spreadsheet. If that one is not up there, I do apologize. I thought I had put both of them on there. But I will put the 30% up as well.
Jackie, you ready? Route 6 design.
So I have to stay after this and
I was planning on staying on since there was discussion about the cost estimates and, I just saw it yesterday. So I figured I'd hang on. I might be eating my lunch, so I might turn my camera off if that's okay. It's a busy day.
first, maybe.
Do it. Yeah,
Cost estimate
you want to do
first,
the cost estimate?
and then she could check out.
Oh, sure. So we kind of touched on the cost estimate a little bit, and I think this is for the plant we're talking about, right? So, so I guess the next steps would be, we're going to send you, unless we did send Jerry's cost estimate along, have we?
Maybe.
Okay,
Do you have it?
I got it yesterday from Erica.
okay. So, the two things we could perhaps do would be to, kind of work together. You could take our estimate, put it along your estimate side by side, and then kind of figure out where the gap is. And then we could do the same. We could send your estimate to Jerry and have Jerry comment on it. And I think we did regroup at some point, once everybody had a chance to kind of review and comment on some of the items there within the estimate. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't mind. I mean, even if we wanted a quick meeting before we get into all the details, because I honestly just was able to look at it a little bit yesterday and today, and by and large, I'm sure there's specific discipline differences, but if you go back down to the bulk of the I guess estimated work, it was approximately $40 million for TCI, and I want to say $37 million for us. And they have a lot more contingencies, like a CAPE contingency, a tariff contingency, and a few other things. So it might just be, I wouldn't mind talking with them really quick to see if that's something that they were looking at from like an AACE, estimate of giving a range, or if that's something that they would try to bake into their estimate, down the line. But yeah, I think from that point, we've already started doing it a little bit to understand what they did and what we did. So yeah, we can definitely do that and compare them all.
So yeah, you're right. I think the work, what's defined as the work, is very close, within a couple $3 million off between one and the other. And I think also the bulk of the differences in the CAPE contingency and then some other contingencies. But he was also careful to say that don't drop that contingency by that much, because it has happened before, especially on the outer Cape, and he feels as if it may sound a little bit conservative, but the truth isn't that far off, I guess. So I guess maybe a call between your estimator and Cherry would be helpful. If we don't want to go through the labor of trying to put things side by side and trying to get into every little component of that cost estimate. If that works, I guess we could arrange for one.
Okay.
And make it
Yeah, I think that would be great. Even if we just had 20 minutes, 30 minutes to understand where they were coming from with some of that. I mean, my team, because honestly, if you guys didn't have TCI do the third party estimate, we were going to have them do the estimate for us anyway, or do a third party estimate. So, we're definitely, even now we've kind of been looking at a few things, some of, like, I would say, the higher dollar value amounts, to looking to see, what we could look at with our design and where the differences are. And agreed, I think we've worked with them before, and, where we were a little low and they were a little high, and we kind of came somewhere in the middle. I will say, actually, Steve, you've had your hand raised for a long time. I don't know if you have a question that you want to interrupt now.
I perhaps have a comment. The only way I see these things work, in my experience, is you put the two estimators in the same room or the same Zoom, and you have a management on each side, whether it be you, Lauren, or Uziad, and you bang it out and you go into the details, and you spend a half a day doing it. I mean, you spend tens of thousands of dollars of doing an estimate. One meeting will resolve a lot of issues really quick. That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in agreement here, so
Yeah.
we should make things happen for sure.
Well, that could have happened 2 weeks ago. It could happen tomorrow. What you don't want it to do is trade information for the next 2 weeks and not have it happen.
Right.
Yeah, I guess along those lines, I was concerned also about, there's a lot of items that TCI allowed for that GHD didn't, but there was also a few that showed up in the GHD column that TCI didn't include. So I'm not even sure we have the worst case in front of us, but so that would also be resolved by a meeting like that.
Yeah. And is it on your end, Lauren and Dave, is it one person that's handles the cost estimating, or is it just a group that needs to be involved in this meeting?
I don't know if Dave, if you want to handle it, but it's definitely a group. We've got cost estimators and people involved in this cost estimate from all the different disciplines.
Okay.
But don't you have a chief estimator that's got overall responsibility of the total estimate?
So we actually don't. So again, that's why we would go out to a third party estimator to do that. But since we didn't want to have double the cost relative to that. So yeah, at GHD, it's typically the project team that goes through and spearheads that effort. We do have specific cost estimators for the electrical components.
All right, so I guess we'll reach out to Jerry, and then provide a couple days, Lauren, and see what works for your group, and then we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
So before you move on, and the submission to DEP of these, the groundwater, and such, is that in a place where Rich and Jackie are gonna get sandbagged next week?
Say that again. Whether they're going to get sandbagged?
Yeah, that's the word I use.
Um,
So I sense some confusion about whether you're gonna submit something or they're gonna, and they said it was okay to submit it. So what's true?
So, I mean, I told Rich that I would do everything in my power to try to get the team to submit, but I do want to check in. I mean, obviously it's a lot of, if you see the invoices, there's over 100 people on this job that have touched it at one point, and I want to check with a couple people to make sure that that is ready and ready to be submitted.
And your part?
From our part, looks like Jackie and Hillary had the conversation with DEP, and it could be submitted under two separate covers. That's our understanding. So.
Thank you.
I think our main goal is just before anybody leaves on vacation, that we get these permits submitted.
That's it.
Get the clock ticking on the timeline.
So the hydrogeo was submitted last Friday. Great that was submitted, but also there is the fact that it could be reviewed, it could be scrutinized. And if there's any technical deficiencies in there, that could be 3 months from that point. And then, of course, add the holidays to the equation. It's not a good recipe. The SW37, we have one, and so does GHD. And that needs 55 days of review and then needs to be submitted before the holiday. This is when the clock starts ticking.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Ziad.
All right.
So I guess I don't know if that answered your question.
Well,
I think we're looking for a commitment. Right? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for
I want
a commitment. A
a
commitment.
neck in the-
I wanna commit. I wanna commit. Can you give me to maybe 5 o'clock?
Yes, I can give you time to commit, but
Okay.
please try, really
Yes.
try.
No, I mean, and honestly, if Jeff was here, he'd be saying, just submit it, Lauren.
Yeah, okay, good.
But yeah, I know there's the potential for them to have comments no matter what we submit. So,
Yes.
so yeah, I guess I want to make sure that I don't, commit something that, we haven't, honestly, because it was kind of silly, but there's like, depending on where you look in the application, there's other maps and things to submit. So I just, want to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. But I'm committed to, getting this out, as in all of my power.
By the 19th at the latest. That's what we're looking for.
I know Dave's on the call and I think he hears that.
Take it.
All right. Now where are we going? Are we going back? The Route 6 design? Yes. The exciting colorful maps.
Okay, yeah, so definitely overkill with the maps, but we just had everything documented for our design submission. So without getting in the weeds too much, the first map is just basically showing the whole collection system area and the different colors of the different sewer sheds that you've seen before with the stars based on the pump station locations. So we were looking kind of a little bit at value engineering on our end and constructability and kind of looking for any areas where we're over 15 feet deep for the gravity sewer. So that's where this first map is showing, and you can see the whole green area on Route 6 past, like Captain's Quarters Motel, I think that near Fallon Road is all greater than 15 feet in depth. And
Is
then,
that from here to here?
Yeah, the green.
All the green.
All the
Yep.
Is it all 15 foot or more?
greater than-
Yeah,
so the way.
Best possible news, right?
So the way we worked on the design was going to gravity as much as possible. So the base design was as much gravity as we could do and the least amount of low pressure, so residents wouldn't have to have grinder pumps. So that's where this map kind of came in. But when we were doing our constructability review, we were just really concerned about a lot of the areas on Route 6 where it was greater than 20 feet or even greater than 25 feet. Just from terms of, safety and obviously what happened in
Yeah.
Yarmouth recently.
It happened last meeting. I knew about it that last meeting, but I didn't bring it up, but
Yeah.
I saw it in midnight news. Yeah, it was something wrong.
and cost.
Yeah, and cost.
cost and duration.
Duration too, right?
And
But is this your idea with the lateral piece?
Yeah, we thought initially that, not to interrupt what Jackie's train of thought here, but initially we thought about directional drill for the deeper portion and then run a tandem gravity line that's shallow to collect the services and then every so often dump it into the line. But because of the depth, the HDD does not guarantee slope. So last thing you want to do, attempt an HDD, they have a deflection on the line, all of a sudden you don't have the proper slope. So you have a line that's stagnant and you cannot live with that, especially on an 8-inch pipe. All right, so, and then, go ahead, Jackie, I'm sorry.
No, see, that's right. And we looked into like clay jacking the pipe with pilot tubes as well, but that wouldn't give us the accuracy that we needed. And then we also looked into, can we put the pump station somewhere else and try to reconfigure how we did it to reduce the depth? That didn't work. So then that's what these next couple of maps are. So the first map, got the
Did we send them out?
Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were in the pack.
Okay, good.
So then the next map just talks, just more of a zoom in on our current design, and the orange colors are kind of hard to see, but then we were breaking it up between 0 to 8 feet, 8 to 12, and larger than 12, just based on typical bid items for gravity sewer bids. That was what our current design would be. So it gets really deep around Oak Road, and I know Cumberland Farms, that was kind of the worst area, then a little south to Main Street. It doesn't show it on this map. It just shows it's greater than 12 feet, but that's where we were getting into 25 feet. So the next couple of maps for the 3 different options we came up with. Options 1, 2, and 3, where it was just us trying to do an alternatives analysis and what are all our different options. And we came up with kind of what we did for the water project, where we didn't put any main between Old County and the intersection of Massasoit by the Elks. So we thought maybe we could do something there similar for sewer and go down Massasoit completely. We were only going partway down based on the town planner's area for the new zoning on Route 6. But if we went down entirely Massasoit, would that make an impact? And it basically showed us that it would still be just as deep. I think the tables kind of in the top are looking at the different percentages of pipes at the different depths.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be just as deep on Massasoit, but we would have the benefit of not being on Route 6 that deep. So that's what the current option 1 is. Then option 2 and 3 is we started looking into the only way now to not be that deep is to add grinding pumps to the system. So at the northern part of the system, the blue area on options 2 and 3, blue is where we were proposing to put grinder pumps. So the top part of Route 6, there's a couple different hills and valleys. So that's why option 2, if you skip the first kind of hill and put grinder pumps on the top portion, it would allow you to raise the pipe a little bit, but it would still be pretty deep. And then option 3 was the most amount of low pressure we could do, and that means you could come in at the manhole at Old County and Cumberland Farms at 5 feet depth, just the shallowest you can go. And the reason there's no difference between option 2 and 3 is because of those hills and valleys. So even if you extended and did some kind of in between, you would still have a couple hills that you were hitting, and it would make no difference for the manhole at the intersection. So that's why there are only 2 options, 2 and 3.
What is not an option?
Everything is an option.
Yeah.
Everything is an option. The question is, do you have the appetite to kind of deal with it, right? So give you an example, when you're at that depth, you're probably gonna go with a slide rail system. And a slide rail system to be safe, working 20, 25 feet below grade. And your production is vastly diminished because you're not producing much by the time you get down to that depth that you excavate and, not to mention the safety aspect of it, by the time you get down 25 feet deep, your top width of the trench, you're probably gonna take most of that Route 6 anyway. And then you're gonna have to restore it at the end, right? So, you look at it from a production standpoint, it's, if you go with a low pressure, 5 foot deep, low pressure sewer, you could probably put in 200, 300 feet a day. Whereas if you're 25 feet deep, you're probably lucky to put one stick in there, just 30 feet. You're lucky.
Yeah.
So
No, I don't like the idea.
it's definitely doable. The cost would be astronomical, and then the duration would be, too long, I guess, because you're. So, and this is all summarized in the basis design report, how we arrived at this position. I mean, obviously, we did discuss it last week with others, and we thought maybe this is a good time to discuss it with you guys.
And then the last two the tables. I mean, it's a lot, but it's really just the first one is illustrating, putting some type of cost to it with the different bid items. And then the second sheet was where we were kind of really going in the weeds about how much pipe would we have that's between 20 and 25, greater than 25, 15 to 20. So just looking at the cost, I was looking at the second table from when we talked about just assuming the residents are installing their own grinder pumps. Because you're looking at the cost of doing the gravity, but then we also consider the cost of buying more grinder pumps in the total. So the current design is around 12 million. And then if we did option one, where we would go down Massasoit instead, so we were adding more pipe to the design. And actually a little deeper, that was 12.7 estimate. Then option two came to around 11.8, and then option three, 9.5.
And the days.
Duration is a lot less, yes.
But the top, are we gonna sign up are we made a decision whether we're gonna sign up for grinder pumps or not? I mean,
Whether we're gonna pay for them or
yeah,
not.
Yeah.
we're gonna back up to $22,000.
This is gonna be part of this decision, I think.
But you.
So I have a question. The grinder pump numbers that were talked about in the last meeting are like 300. I mean, I remember that number. Do these three options, what do they do to that number?
Right, so
This is
Starting somewhere.
yeah.
No.
So they had probably 60 pumps, right?
Yeah.
It's not too bad, but
So right now, the current design had 16 pumps. So if we just go down Massasoit, we're still saying it's 16. Then if we do the top of Route 6, you're going up to 24. And then option three, with everything being the shallowest and the most low pressure that we would need, it goes up to 88. So you're adding like 72 grinder pumps with option three.
You're still overall, phase one would be less than half on grinders. Less than half. on grinders.
The second table with the pipe totals, it would be
Yeah,
343.
do the math for you.
it's on this page here,
Yeah, no.
343.
And that 343 is just, I know we talked about 300 originally around like the 271.
Yeah.
So it would go up to the 343 with this option.
Sure.
But that 271, we were floating around 300 because there are several properties that's on gravity that still have to get a grinder because they're so low compared to the road elevation. So they're gonna have to pump up to the road even though the pipe is gravity. So that 343 is just if you have low pressure in front of your house. It's gonna be higher than that on the gravity lines.
Okay,
Makes sense.
what's low pressure again?
Low pressure?
Yeah.
It's the grinder pump going through a small diameter by 5 feet to 4 or 5 feet.
So low pressure means,
So we
that
will,
there's a grinder pump involved. where you're showing the footage.
So that means we're looking at 1.5 to 2.5 inch pipe that can be 5 foot deep. With, installed, and then, yep, and then each house has to have a grinder pump in that situation, be able to pump, and then in all these areas, they pump into a gravity main. And then that gravity main gets to the pump station,
Pump station, pump.
That's called source main.
Force main, right?
and then the gravity lines have to have the pitch, so they can just flow by gravity. But if your house is way below the road elevation, you have to get a grinder pump to pump it up to the gravity line. So this 343 is only if the low pressure is in front of your house.
Any idea what the total is?
Well, that's where,
Including the low,
that's why we were thinking 300, so our low pressure used to
it
be
might be 370, yeah. Still barely under half, but
Yeah.
under half.
Yeah, right.
And there's no deep pipe in option number 3.
Right, so
There's
on the-
somewhere.
so there's nothing below 20 feet. There's 150 feet between 15 and 20 on Route 6, and then 1,500 feet between 15 and 20 on Massasoit, Oak County.
Still some deep portions, but then again, you know, you have a pump station there and then you want to have the ability to have gravity sewer.
But I guess it would be able to directional drill in those places.
Well, that's the problem with directional drilling. There's no guarantee that you're gonna get the slope, right? Especially when you're dealing with a small diameter pipe, and then you have a sag in the line, it would be an operation nightmare, like maintenance nightmare for the future. The flow isn't going to go through it. They don't guarantee it, and if they can't guarantee it, there's no sense even considering that.
And that's the other point is the operations and maintenance, 5 foot level depth
So
between outlets.
That's
and
easier to get to.
Yeah, so it's not just the construction cost, it's the ongoing operating cost.
You're gonna flush the line all the time, trying to clean it, which is.
Steve,
Yeah, from a comparing option 2 and 3, what's the duration of activities on Route 6 between those two options? So we talking about a couple of months difference, or I mean, I would think schedule, I think that would have a big impact too.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah,
decision.
exactly. I think it's around 100, like 90 days, 90 to 100 days less on Route 6.
that's
I mean,
amazing.
that's huge.
It's huge.
On Route 6 or for the whole part?
No, this is all,
Just on Route 6.
On Route 6.
it's just for that contract, yeah.
Yeah,
And
Route
we
6.
did- We did look into, I think I mentioned it in the beginning, maybe even cutting out that portion on Route 6 and potentially doing what we did with the water project, which was directional drills across a couple of easements. But the pipe footage and the elevations going across didn't make any sense anyway. So we're still putting main on Route 6. That just portion would be less than 5 feet now in that stretch, or at 5 feet. And I think we could cut out, I think it was 250 feet. And not have to, we could cut the distance between Old County and then the Massasoit intersection with Elks. We could cut out a little bit stretch of that. On
Cut it
map.
out. The city
On
pipe.
this first map. Over here,
Oh,
because we can just change the flow direction so that
that's what you mean.
south of Main Street would flow right to the pump station, but then north of Main Street could flow to like the Cumberland Farms intersection.
Yeah.
And the properties were still being served, so we didn't need pipe in front of that area, just like south of Main Street.
You did include, an allowance for grinder pumps, right? The extra grinder pumps in
Yep.
these.
Yep, those are included in the cost, and that was the vendor reps that we talked about before. Pricing,
There's a unit cost for each, Peter.
That's what I thought, yeah. Trying to reconstruct it. So the bottom line, total cost includes what we think is.
And there's almost a $2.5 million difference between that option and the current option.
Yeah, but it includes the grinder pumps.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I just want to make, so the 9.5 includes that full $22,000 cost per grinder pump.
Yeah.
In it.
No.
no, that was,
It's
that was-
10.7.
It's just-
the 9.5 includes the town buying the grinder pumps. And then the
Just
10.9,
the 6,000.
yep,
Yeah,
Oh, right.
6,000 something, yeah, that's the
6250.
price, but from the contractor, from the vendor. And then last time we did talk about, the, requirements for the those grinder pumps, electrical requirements and so on and so forth, right, so.
Yeah, this estimate down here includes that in the installation.
Yep. The third table at the bottom is just the cost breakdown, and then that 22,000 is reflected in the first table.
Right.
Just to get,
There's $2,800 on the installation. Is that the electrical in that number?
the electrical service, yep.
It is.
I'm sorry, I'm still confused.
I am, so you added the whole cost and.
Well, she just showed
The top has.
how the 22,
How much you this?
Making my confusion.
So if you look at sheet, so the top table has the purchase and install the grinder pumps. The bottom table just
With the town.
purchase the grinder pumps and the residents will have to be responsible to install, right? So that's when the town pays $62.50 for each grinder pump and then they either sell it to the homeowner
But
at
it's
discounted price
Just buying the grinder.
or the town buys and installs at an average price of $22,000.
But we're not paying for the whole
Correct.
installation.
Correct. You probably, you need to look at the bottom table, so that gives you a total of $9,510,000.
Yeah, okay, got it.
but
I'm on the right page.
so the top table
Would be if you were
includes
to.
if we are paying for the installation.
Now, keep in mind, some pumps are,
Still 2 million.
yeah, well, still, yeah, of course.
I mean, it's good considering we could still do option 3.
Keep in mind what?
Keep in mind that each house is a little different. Some
Right.
houses may have to have some serious amount of restoration, some, some less, right?
That this is a best guess, yeah,
Right. Just an average.
and that's where.
So I think our decision point comes somewhere between the bottom number and the top number, right?
Yep,
What's going to be so everyone's got to connect. So in my mind, we had this a little bit another time, but my mind, the homeowner's got to pay for their connection because every property is different. Grinder pump or no. But some people have the additional expense of a grinder pump. So that's what we're talking about. They still have to connect as well, but they have the additional burden of the grinder pump. So how much are we going to contribute? And this kind of illustrates perhaps the range of just buying the pump versus doing something more. And I'd submit that maybe, once we get all the numbers and we know what we're talking about, we have a uniform allowance that we give to everybody that has to have a grinder pump.
yeah,
Now I'm just gonna throw it in just for talking points. Maybe it's $10,000. You should be able to buy your pump and have some,
electrical.
whatever other costs associated with your property, but you're all of you that are having grinder pumps are all getting the same amount of subsidy, so to speak. And
I-
everybody's gotta make the connection.
No, that's a given across all, just everybody's gonna pay the installation cost, the connection.
Yeah, everybody is, but you'll have extra expenses, obviously, with the grinder pump, so we're gonna subsidize those extra expenses.
But
And that makes it more uniform for all, everyone.
Well, I mean, again, we gotta get back to, we wanna get the flow into the plant. And,
Yeah.
Right.
The more incentive we get.
You have to incentivize it, right?
So I don't know what the law is in terms of how much grace period you give between the time the pipe goes by the house and the time they have to connect that.
So, yeah, I
The
mean,
law says a year, but we have to extend it if people can't get contractors
So what
to.
happened in Orleans, I was
Yeah.
helping that, they gave them a year,
It seems like they're still,
yeah, and then most people, yeah, then they gave more than half the people that applied another year. And I think they almost got it all done in the second year.
like what some municipalities do, if you have a failing septic system, there's no choice but to connect, right? And usually what they do is they give them up to 3 years to connect. If you had done a brand new septic system and, they give you up to 3 years. But then the way you promote those connections, you waive the connection fee, right? Because now you get more flow into the plant and all of that. That's what you need right away, so.
they used to want to do a connection fee.
Yeah,
There's no connection fees, yeah, so.
I mean, I think like with water, we want.
But I thought you had a $500 connection fee in your numbers.
No,
On the,
Jackie.
go ahead.
Steve?
Quick question, Jackie Tupper, with the additional 60 grinder pumps, most of them, commercial or most of them residential? How's the breakdown on that? Does that have a bearing at all?
Most of them are commercial because it's on
Okay.
Route 6. It would just be up Dory Lane complex, Holmes Road and Brackett. So we had were calculating this yesterday. If we go with option 3, we were just gonna shift all that low pressure flow directly into the plant and take it out of the green area, and that amounted to like 13 gallons per minute difference in the pump station design, which I think was around like 18,000 gallons per day flow wise.
Okay.
On the breakdown of the 22,000 for the grinder pumps, and the service piping for 12,500. Is that just the extra piping for the grinder pump, or is that the piping all the way to the?
That's running from the street to the grinder pump.
So everybody's gonna have to pay that, even if you don't have a grinder pump.
Well, if you don't have a grinder pump, the stub comes up to the property line and it is the homeowner's responsibility to do the internal plumbing and then connect to the stub, right? From the foundation onto the stub.
So it's not gonna cost me $22,000 more if I have a grinder pump
No,
than person that next door that doesn't. It's so that I'm just trying to justify the
Yeah, right.
$10,000
no,
amount.
because you're still gonna be paying, the regular people are still gonna be paying that $12,000
Are they?
run.
I think, one of the main differences
So
was
10 is,
we had,
Yeah,
makes it almost a
In-
wash.
right, in SRF, like that 6,000, that was part of the whole SRF appropriation that the town would buy the grinder pumps.
Yep.
And if you wanted to charge residents to pay for the grinder pumps, then SRF doesn't reimburse you. So to get the SRF money, you'd have to give the grinder pumps to residents for free.
Okay.
little bit of an SRF incentive.
And then, so if you have a grinder pump, the town would be providing it, so you don't have to pay. So the main difference is just if you are on low pressure, there's some regulations about having a backup generator, the generator for backup power. And then,
Which has, just gonna have to get one of those.
just the electrical work inside and making sure you have a high enough electric service and hiring the electrician, which you wouldn't have to do.
But if we want to subsidize that extra work, that's not SRF reimbursable.
The inside work, no, but they would pay for at least they said they would from the road to the grinder pump.
For the service
But
connection.
not the generator.
No,
So I mean, if you want
or
to,
the inside work.
if you want to give more than it's kind of it's just different way to skin the cat, right? If you want to give them the grinder pump and you want to reimburse them for some of the installation, using that $10,000 number, we're gonna have to say it's for the service piping, but really we can give it allowance of $3,750 for service piping. We don't really care how you end up spending it.
Do you get your generator yet? Are you hooked up?
I just got plans like confirmed yesterday or Monday. So
Today's Tuesday.
yesterday, and sent them out to 3 engineering firms for a quote and
To connect to the sewer,
install my grinder pump.
but nothing with the generator, because you're under the impression that you get a small generator and it wasn't gonna cost a lot.
I've got a small house, but I'm not going to get just the hand generator that I can connect.
Actually, a small generator should be able to run this.
It should, but I
Yeah.
wonder, with the electrical inspector and all the issues, where would it be? Would it be portable?
No, portables work. You can use a
I'm sure they'd work.
Yeah, it's a 30 amp.
You need a
Doesn't
transfer
draw 30
switch.
amps. It does not draw 30 amps.
It's the same electrical inspector, so Rich will know.
Oh.
once-
Yeah,
Yeah, because I asked that our electrical inspector, because he was up at welfare, they have that, he said a 30 amp.
30 amp, really, yeah. But this thing doesn't really draw 30 amps. I mean, you could.
No, I know.
You could like plug in a 7,500 watt generator and then just run it in a pinch, right? It has a 7,500 gallon capacity, so you could just drain it every so often, I guess, if you have to.
Yeah.
But I'm probably gonna take the opportunity to put in some small generator.
Yeah, that you could run half your house off of, which I think is what most people probably do. But don't have the option.
I know you're calling these options, but what's the designer recommendation right now?
With grinder pumps.
3
Option 3.
makes sense.
I mean, it's got the cost, it's got the safety, and it's got the schedule all working for it.
Right.
Like you had pointed out too, that when we looked at it the same, we were thinking, okay, it's commercial properties that are really gonna bear the burden of more grinder pumps versus residences.
And are their grinder pumps different than residential? I've been thinking about
The commercial?
Sheridan,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah. They're bigger. You get like duplex, you get 2 pumps as opposed to 1. Sometimes
Yeah.
you put 4 in the thing, you know? They are
Plus, they're
different, yeah.
more, plus they're more motivated to hook up than residential, I would think, too.
Yeah. So this additional number of grinder pumps, how many of them are in properties like the Sheridan?
That's what Steve asked.
Out of the
Most
70,
of them.
well, Dory Lane, we were saying was gonna be 1 pump.
What pump? Oh, for the whole complex. Oh, because they have a treatment plant.
Right, yeah. so
$6,250 pump, right?
Theirs
No.
will probably be a little bit larger. There'd probably be a duplex. They had already approached, I think, Hillary and Kim a couple times, and they already have a whole gravity feed on Dory Lane and Stellwagen with a manhole out front, so we just put the grinder in that manhole,
I see.
pump up to the road.
Oh, I haven't thought about that, but that's interesting. That we're gonna get all that flow without putting any pipe in the ground.
Right,
And does Sheridan have something like that as well?
they're probably not that we could reuse,
Oh,
their
but,
plant is in the back.
Faucet Green,
Their plant is right in the front, yeah, so
same
just
thing.
put one,
Pipe once we get into that neighborhood,
right?
and they get just 10,000 for the whole.
Well, I'm thinking commercial, maybe we don't extend the offer, but commercial, I mean, benefit of being commercial is you could probably write the whole thing off in 1 year, 10 grand's.
Yeah, right.
If they spend 10 grand on something,
Some of the other
it's worth
stuff, yeah.
It's not really gonna cost them, 4 grand after this.
So is Dory Lane commercial?
No,
No,
No.
but that's
How about-
44 connections that really want to be on the
so
sewer.
they got a homeowners association, so it would just be an assessment to the homeowners.
Why do they want to be on the sewer?
Because they're all from away and they all think that it's a good idea.
They have a treatment plant.
They have a treatment plant and they hate running their own treatment plant because it's a pain in the ass.
Oh,
And it hasn't been functioning quite well.
And it has been, they just want to take their little
A
treatment
failed
lines
treatment
and
plant.
hook them up to us.
Okay.
So they haven't wanted, we made them do the treatment plant, obviously, to do
Yeah.
the density
Of course.
and it hasn't, they hate it.
How's the one at Nauset Green working?
We have,
Oh,
have you heard anything
Okay.
bad about the Nauset Green one?
Whitewater's their operator.
Yeah, the Nauset Green one is working fine. The Dory Lane one has had a host of issues in recent days.
Okay, but that said, Dory Lane is 10 years older, at least.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, it's an older system.
And to actually answer Steve's question, I think out of the 74, there were around 20
20 what?
residential
Residents.
properties.
And 50 for commercial.
Spending, there's some flexibility we had there.
Hmm?
Some flexibility we had there in terms of allocating the money between residential or support them.
Well. So. It seems a progress.
So
So this is contract number 2, right? And contract number 1 is,
Sorry.
this is contract number 2? It
Yes,
says on it.
yeah,
So contract number 1 is,
is the blue area around the plant.
And no issues with that,
We kind of wanted to bring this up because it's the sensitivity and the location, right? Route 6 and the shift and everything.
Yeah.
That's why this was worth the effort of discussing.
I guess my question is, are we gonna run into any more of this
No,
issues?
no.
Yeah, like the first map, it's just the green, some of the green areas is where it's buried under 15, but nowhere else are we getting even.
Of the
And
green
it was
area,
just a couple.
so we can,
stretches.
and we can
But
just
this is.
dig down into those areas, I should.
It was just the only
Yeah.
other larger spot was by the school,
Just,
a little bit in front of the elementary school. It was around 15, like 16 feet.
The dark,
these
Yeah.
darker
so
things.
they'll just dig those, they'll go down to wherever they have to there, rather than get involved in more grinder pumps.
And, this was at the end of last meeting, we asked DEP if we could just do these contracts first. So where do we land on that?
So
Wanna have a owners meeting at some point? Yeah. And talk about some stuff without GHD, or? Like,
Yeah, I think so.
we're all done with that.
I think so. Where are we on the agenda? Yeah. Lauren, I think we're good. You wanna jump off?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Individually wrapped.
Yeah. So,
And,
Wait a minute, do you wanna, you did two questions really quickly. The first one was.
David's still on too.
Yeah,
Questions for us?
but, while they're departing, I'll just tell you that I think we are gonna want you to vote on these options, like we are gonna wanna, this isn't gonna be an official something we're gonna ask for your guidance on. It does not have to be today, but that's why it's laid out.
So we're also on the schedule to kind of wrap up the final design and submit it to DEP to review and give us the permission to advertise, right? So we're doing good with schedule. There's no concerns on our end. We're definitely gonna meet the schedule. The question here is, well, DEP would love to see the plant go ahead of the collection system, right? Usually they don't allow the collection system to be advancing ahead of the plant. But we're gonna stay on target here and then bid when we can. We wanted to kind of spread out the space out the contract so we could bid like 2 per year. But they don't like that. They wanted to have all contracts bid within the same calendar year. So we're trying to figure out how to one, space it out so that way we don't have 5 contractors in town going at it at the same time, which would be disastrous, right? So we could, we're still trying to figure out how we write the contract so that way, we could bid the first 2, get them going, right? And then we could maybe work with the schedule to extend the time, but we say, okay, you can start before a certain date, right?
Well, the other idea was that, so basically, and Lauren and I were talking about this on Friday, is that we were in the process of when it's submitted and they look at the whole list and they look at all the communities. So we just want to be able to get that PAC, project approval certificate.
Yeah.
So they promised that to us. I thought we were getting it this week, whereas they said they dropped, a ton of other projects. So
Why? Because they weren't ready or?
yeah, they thought they weren't far long enough for us, or their submission in October wasn't good enough. Their design wasn't good enough, and they didn't have confidence that they were going to meet any of the deadlines.
Okay.
So they explained it. So I was trying to get the plant to be in the fall because it makes more sense for our schedule.
Yeah,
But they said they were just really adamant against that, and it's kind of hard because we want to get the PAC. They said they've never done a project where the piping went before the plant, so they really wanted to see that first. And they were okay with some of the collection system going into the fall, but not the plant. And I think they're stuck because, well, not stuck, but we submitted it as one package because you can't, if we started breaking it up, then we'd be on another IUP and we might not make the IUP, so then
Right.
it didn't make any sense. So their argument was, if you really want to bid them a year later, you should go on another IUP. But then we're in the same issue. So if they let us bid some of it in the fall, we wouldn't want them to work in the winter anyway on paved roads like we did with the water project.
Yeah.
So theoretically, they wouldn't, if we can kind of push the bidding a little bit, you can't work on paved roads anyway, they'd probably start in spring anyway, and we've been trying to talk to the contractors about extending the completion date. So we originally had them as you have to finish each one in a year, but if we bid some of these later and say you have way more time, someone like Digit would come bid the first one, know that they could get the second one and not have to do it until they did the first one.
But how realistic is it to think that we would go out to bid, get our contractor, negotiate, sign the contracts, get the approval from SRF, go through all that, and be able to mobilize and start anything before the 1st of September anyway?
Well, that's true. That is the first of that. I mean, you bid it, you have somebody on board by June 30th. There's
Right.
no way you're
We're
gonna,
not gonna mobilize and everything, but.
I mean, same thing with a plant, same
So I
thing.
think we could still work, the fall isn't like far away in terms of, as long as we don't have to like break ground or
Right.
we'd start clearing things. I
I mean,
suppose.
initially, we thought each contract would be like 1 year, and then you give them like 6 months at the tail end to commission and then do the cleanup and close up and everything else. So we have like 18 months per contract, right? So now we may have to space that out a little bit further, you know, because we don't want like 5 people working on 5 corners of town. It'd be a disaster.
And I still have the question of if we're getting 50 million a year, the first year works just fine. But then the second year and the third year, it's gonna be really challenging if we have to have all these contractors going at once and we only have 50.
Exactly. That was the one thing I didn't realize. So technically, since we were on the 2025 IUP,
Yeah.
we have 50 million right now.
Here's 100.
So you have 100 million the first year.
The bid, yeah, I didn't realize it was that way.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense then. All right.
So they would still only issue a 50 million PRA originally and do them as separate loans, but as soon as we used up the 50 million, they would immediately give us the next 50. The only thing they said now is they're super strict about once you get 50% complete on that loan, they're gonna start looking into how to put it into repayment.
Geez, okay.
But that's always been.
That's why we have all different dates with them.
But
But so the 100 million, so that's good because that means we could actually do the treatment plant contract without a problem.
Right.
We could sign a treatment plant contract without a problem. All right, that makes sense.
And then what we could do, we could be creative in the bidding of the collection system. So we bid like a couple here in the spring.
Yeah.
And then we commit to bidding a couple in the fall, but then say, okay, you're not gonna start anytime soon now. Here, we're gonna probably have you start on March 1st or whatever, right? And then
and how much do we rely on that number if we do that though?
how much?
Am I gonna bid something that's 6
They'll have
months out?
Well, pipeline is a little bit different than the plant. Obviously, here at the plant, you have cost of equipment and stuff that's coming from overseas, subject to different things. Whereas pipe, you know, I mean, pipe is pipe. Usually, it doesn't. The price doesn't really vary that much, and it's very competitive, right?
You have them buy it up front, pay store.
Buy it up front, pay for that,
Save.
separate. Stored material, you know, so that way you're not incurring additional costs of the pipeline.
Yeah.
Labor maybe, you know, goes up a little bit every so often, but. It all depends on the contractor and what do they have for backlog and if they're willing to wait for a little bit. But you extend the contract instead of making it like 18 months, you make it like 2 years, right, for each contract. And you could afford to take a couple months off.
Okay.
And what does that do to the overall timeline?
At the end of the day, you're probably gonna be 6 months ahead of schedule, maybe overall.
I mean, 6 months more, it's good, but
No, ahead, if you're bidding all together and then you know, you kind of.
We have to do it faster.
You have to do it faster, that's all. But if we extend the contracts, instead of 18 months, we make it 24 months per contract, you know, we probably gain overall 5 months, 6 months.
But if the major contractor can proceed with the treatment plant and we know we have the total cost of that, then the contracts, I would think the collection contracts, we could have more play with, because even though someone might be bidding ahead, they'll know exactly what it is. They know the depth, they know the number of pipe. It's not like it's rocket science. They could say, oh, we could put this on our timesheet for 2 years from now and still make money, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely different than the plant. because
Yeah.
It's just the plant is specialty work, whereas this one here have a lot of contractors who could do it and it's very competitive, so.
But I'm a little confused, but you have to bid it sooner than we wanted to, is what I.
Yeah,
You
if
want-
we did
yeah.
it and then
Yep,
schedule it for
but you have
later.
to bid it all by June 30th.
No, not all of it, no. We're gonna bid 2 by June 30th.
You have to do two.
We have, yeah.
But
Well,
what about-
all we have to do is 1, not 2.
Right.
But we're gonna do,
And then when do you have to have all of them bid by? This,
we'll try to spread them out till the.
That's when
but in this, in 2026.
they want it to be in that year. So they can't be that strict with us because we're a carryover
They
project,
want to be in what, because they're not
twenty
gonna-
twenty-six.
2026.
Just
even
so
though we don't get the last money until 2027.
Yeah.
We gotta bid it in 2026.
Right.
But
Yeah, but keep in mind, the work will continue through 2027, even though you bid it in 26. The work is going to continue through 2027.
And then there's 20 million.
when will it,
Right.
when do you,
But in January 1st, we'll have 100 million. It's already done.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
when do you
Awesome.
think we'll be done?
With the collection system, if they make us bid it all in 2025 or maybe early 26, we're probably looking at 3.5 years, or maybe 4 years, I don't know. Maybe 3.5 most likely,
See, 3.5
from
When we
June 30th, yeah.
And how long?
The end of 2029,
so the contract number 5 or whatever, we're gonna be bidding it 3 years and, 2.5.
Initially, that's how we planned it. We bid like the last contract, in 2027.
Yeah, but we can't do that.
Right, no, not unless we force them to do it, but
Seems like they're holding the cards.
Honestly,
the money.
we won't know that until probably the winter of next year, right? I mean, we'll know that we have to either finish bidding or not.
Oh,
I guess we bid now and then just see what
They might
happens.
give you-
Push off what we can.
They might give you some
and then-
slack.
Some slack.
Well, that's better than last time. I mean,
Yeah,
I was just trying to figure out how to
it seemed impossible.
mentally, exactly, manage it.
well, and depending on how the bids come in, we could work with them. So their rules are, they're basically looking at, we have to have, since the carryover project, only one contract under contract by June 30th to get the principal forgiveness. And that's why we were trying to get one collection system contract. But that's when they were kind of like, no, the plant has to come first. It has to be before June 30th.
Okay.
And that in their mind, that was, you have to show progress on enough of the work to move forward.
So that's what we're up against with the plant, the
So
design,
pressure's on
the
them.
design, yeah. And,
And how long are we gonna be on Route 6?
I think we have like 100 and some odd days,
184 days.
184 days.
84 days.
Yeah.
And that was just for the
On Route
green,
6.
the green area was the 184.
Yeah, yeah.
And this was probably around the same amount.
So, and given that we're still working with the same timelines, we can't be on Route 6, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's already-
It's pretty clear in the specification that you can only do between Labor Day and Memorial Day. Right, that's how we actually have it.
And then we can't be placing asphalt after November 15th either without special provisions. So there was gonna be a longer time frame anyway.
Yeah.
what, because of the temperature?
Because, well, it's the Route 6 and it's a state highway,
Oh,
so yeah.
So we're gonna be doing it.
because they mix it all year round now.
They do,
Is
yeah.
it the same, this is the same contract, so the same contract is gonna have to come back in next year and do something.
Yeah,
So the way DEP wants us to do this, that could somewhat limit us too, because the reason being, initially we had thought you bid 2 in 2025, 2 in 2026, and 1 in 2027, right? So if you're a contractor that works here on Cape and has a limited bonding capacity or whatever, they could technically bid the first phase, and then maybe the third year they could bid the other one. Whereas now, if you want to bid them all together, that may limit the number of contractors to be able to chase that work. So, but we think it's going to be very competitive. And I know, Lauren, we haven't talked about one item here, but earlier that the discussion about the contractors that we've been socializing this plant with. I'm not sure if you had any further discussion with anyone.
Yeah, I guess one thing I did want to mention is that, you know, with the cost of the treatment plant, that the contractors have to have the DCAM approval and have to have their bonding capacity at that amount. And Waterline, just as a note, does not have the bonding capacity over $50 million. So that was something we've noticed. So we actually, our team is going through all of the DCAM approved contractors to look at other contractors that can, you know, have the bonding capacity to do this work. So that's kind of where we stand as far as that goes.
So we had similar concerns. I got a couple of calls from others, and I think what's happening is people are trying to team up to make sure that they
That's a good thing.
2 or 3 contractors looking to see who they could team up with to meet the criteria, the DCAM criteria. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you worked in projects where contractors have teamed up and they work out okay?
Yeah, I
They
mean,
get along?
it's usually specialty work, like one person does one thing and then the other person does the other thing, but usually it's pretty good. They have contractual agreement between them two, and if there are any fights, it's just them, right? So it worked out. We've seen it before, and it's definitely not the first time.
Do they, are the bonding capacity limits all over the board, or do they have, most companies have 50 million or 100 or?
DCAM is a little tough to meet. They're pretty strict, right? So your common contractor that does like a pump station, they could do up to $25-30 million. This is pretty big here. I mean, you're talking what are we saying here? 80 million?
It's somewhere in the 80.
Yeah. So I mean, I know CH Nickerson. We did talk to them. They're capable of doing this on their own.
We'll find out.
Yeah. But I know a few others are not. So.
Yeah, definitely good to hear that some of them are thinking of teaming up. I mean, I do think there's enough, you know, if you've got a more process-oriented contractor and a more site-oriented contractor, you know, they could pair up together in some sort of joint venture or prime sub type of thing pretty easily.
I think one of the bidders in the high school did that. One of our 2 bidders was a team to get the bonding up high enough. But could I bring up one more thing? Okay. So any idea where are we with the total price on this thing now? Assuming worst case on the 2 estimates, the 82 million. What's the rough number on the collection?
Yeah, I guess depends what option we go with, but it looks like if we head in with this option, I think we're pretty good overall.
We had, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, we had the spreadsheet before, so I think you had 50 million for the plant, 10% contingency. So then that left 80 million for the collection system and 6% contingency on the collection system.
Yeah, but if we're up at 80 million on the plant now.
And 80 on the collection system with the contingency.
Well, we gotta wait until the 2 cost estimators do get out.
Well, let's just for the point of discussion.
Yeah.
See if I mean, it'd be nice to know if we were, we added up the worst case, and were we at 200 million or?
No, it looks like we're close to the max.
Are we, or are we over the max?
I just.
I think if we do 80, that would be like 20 million.
If the plant ends up being 80, we're 20 million over budget, we're up to 190.
Yes. Pretty
I
sure.
want to find out.
We're not over
Wait a
budget.
minute, you just said 80 million on the collection.
Don't start worrying yet.
I'm worried. So,
But
did
6%.
you hear what she just said?
Right?
Yeah, but right.
So
now,
that's what, 84 million, 88 million, that's not.
What?
Yeah, so bringing in the
I still don't get 170 again.
because you got to factor in the utilities, police details, which I know for collection systems a lot higher, as well as the construction services and OPM costs. So that is all together.
Absolutely, everything.
So I mean, if we jump up to 80 million on the treatment plant, assuming that's what we're saying, it would be about 88 million on the treatment plant side, not including, I guess that's just be GHD's construction phase services and the utility costs, wouldn't include the OPM costs.
Well, Lauren, if you have it up, when you sent me
Yeah.
your latest cash flow, do you know what we put for the plant and then the 10% contingency? I thought it was 50 and then 10%, so 55.
I can bring up the cash flow too. So this was the latest that we had sent. Oops, for the cost estimate. So we were looking at a construction cost of 51.2, escalated to midpoint of construction at 55.1, and then all of the capital costs or total capital cost was about 63. If you bear with me 1 second.
Well, I know, yeah, you could tell me if I'm wrong, but I thought we were really conservative with the piping and thought we had a lot of wiggle room in that
Yeah.
number,
I mean,
just in case the plant was up.
get what is for all the 5 contracts, I think our cost testing. Pull it up here.
Sorry if you're waiting on me. I'm not sure if you. Oh, here we go.
We're doing the same here.
Okay. I know it's there. It just takes me a second to find it.
Go back.
While you're looking at this point, would it be too much to ask for future meetings that we always have a recap for total cost going forward?
Sure.
I think that's, yeah, I think that's reasonable, Steve.
Yeah, so this was, I might have done this in interim. We might have changed something because this is at 54 and we were at 55 to the midpoint. What was the question related to the cash flow?
Yeah, what number you were carrying for the plant, right?
Total
So I think
cost.
it looks like 50. So for this, I was carrying 54.5. I think in the what I had last submitted was 55.1. So right in line.
Even in your $80 million estimate, you have contract 2 at 14 million. Does that include the police details? This one is. And they did say 10.
9.5.
Yeah, so the plant was 50.
This one says 14. This is from October. And did we take out a pump station? Is the 20 million with the right number of pump stations, or is that with the extra one?
The 4 of them, yeah.
They're 5.
So how many are there? There are 4 or 5.
4 or 5 million.
5, okay. So that's this number. The That your estimated, October was 80.8.
80.8, yes, for the collections. That includes police details?
No. That's right. So this, I was just holding on this number. Yeah. So that I spent here with these options.
All right, well.
$4 million difference right there. So this is, if we buy the pumps 10.9, that's.
So anyway, moving forward,
But
we
it
can
is correct.
try to have a bottom line at every meeting and then
Yeah, simple one page.
refine it.
And
Where are you
And-
now?
along that line, the earlier we get the documents. the
Details,
better.
construction services,
Yeah, all inclusive.
OPM.
At least that's more dangerous.
So. As far as the estimates go, these two. I don't know how they, I mean, the only part I looked at, because the salt shed just jumped out at me as something I could build myself,
Yeah, so
so.
we did talk a little bit about the salt shed, and this is kind of to follow up on the conversation that we had with Tim and John and others. So the salt shed is going to be different from what GHD had shown it on the plans, right? Not like your typical concrete with foundation and everything else. We're doing something a little bit simpler. And we're going to dig into a couple of the vendors and see what's available out there. And then make that, I don't know, Dave and Lauren, one of the comments that we had on the 90%, just because the location of the existing salt shed to kind of be in the way of everything. So maybe priority should be given to prepping this upgrade and doing the new salt shed up front, so that could allow you to demo the existing and then have the site prepared, right? So we're going to do some digging to see what options we have out there for something simpler than a cast in place foundation and walls for the existing salt shed, and make the cost a little bit more reasonable.
So the plan showed cast in place foundation, right?
The one that they have is cast in place. Yeah.
And,
So-
go ahead, Lauren.
Go, sorry. Sorry, Peter. So is that going to be, because I know we had talked about an ad alternate at one point, and I think we had went back and forth a bunch of times. And, this is where, we thought we had ended up, because the preference was maybe not to have like a fabric structure. And I can't remember if this, cost estimate had, like, I know at one point we had more windows and different things that we were going to strip down. So I'd have to double check that. So were you thinking of having that as an ad alternate, or I guess what?
Well, I don't know if it's an ad alternate. I think it's going to have to happen, but it would have to be something simpler than what's shown on the drawings. So either a prefab option or something similar, but not to that level of detail that you guys show it currently.
Okay. I mean, if you just do, lay some asphalt down and put some concrete, those big concrete blocks with a fabric structure over it, I mean, you can get simple. And that's, not too much design. You can delegate the design to was it ClearSpan is one of them. There's a couple other manufacturers.
So I don't know, unless I'm missing something. I mean, I looked through the plans to try to find the detail on the salt shed of construction, and I guess that's on the architectural sheets, right?
Mhm.
And also on structure. There's not a whole lot of detail there. So I don't know what you mean by level of detail. It's
They
pretty
have,
brushy, and it's pretty simple building, even as it's drawn.
right.
What I can't get over is how both estimators costed it.
Well, they had electrical and they had foundation.
Will they not need electrical? Lighting.
I mean,
They have-
it's got lights.
They have lighting,
Oh.
right. I think it was like million something, but the electrical component was pretty hot.
Was
And
it?
they have the concrete footing that kind of
Yeah, the
extends that
spread,
9
the
feet.
spread footing,
Right, and that's what we're trying to say. I don't think you need that.
right.
They just.
And that's why you
Simplify-
said something simpler.
Simplify the foundation, but the structure itself above that, what they've drawn, I think, can't tell from the plan, I couldn't, whether it's wood studs or, what the.
But that was a CMU block, if I'm not mistaken, on the previous.
No.
edition.
No, it was wood. I don't know. It could be an older version, that might have been different, but I don't think it was ever a CMU block. I think it was always more wood to match the, other buildings. And, I honestly, so for the foundation, I'm not the structural engineer. We can bring them on. But I know at one point we talked about raising the walls even higher based on, the equipment that would be going to and from there. But we kept it down at the lower version. So, I think you can get more basic, but like if you look at here, I mean, it's a lot of it's the structural. I mean, you're right. It's the foundation footing, the foundation wall to withstand, the proper, I'm just going to say like the seismic, the actual equipment, that can knock up against the walls.
So
So, yeah,
Lauren,
Wait,
if I recall correctly, one of the reasons too why those walls are so substantial is that they're actually concrete push walls. So you can actually like push your loader bucket up against them, and that's kind of why
good point. Yeah.
they're so massive. So I mean, we could probably definitely do something like the existing salt shed, eliminate that, because I think that's just. I'll be honest, I haven't been in it, but I can tell from the exterior that it doesn't have the concrete push walls. So that is an option. We could probably do something like that. And it would bring that cost down probably quite a bit.
There was a line on there somewhere for the roofing.
This is the salt shed, they show it on a 90%.
Yes. So, yeah, those are the concrete push ones, right?
Yeah, and they got concrete walls on the sides, right?
But then wood above that.
And then wood trusses above them.
Yeah, I looked at
But I
that.
thought the initial price was like a little over $1 million, $1.5 million, right?
Their estimate is $1.1 million, I
Yeah,
think.
right.
And
Yeah.
yours is less. But is that all salt shed? This sheet we're looking at? So it says metal
Yes.
panel roofing, $257,000 for metal panel roofing of 40 square. It's.
So I will say we did.
The plan said asphalt proof, which would be just fine. We
Oh,
don't need a
so
quarter
you know
of a
what?
million.
This got switched to the metal standing seam roofing to be able to apply future solar panels. Was the direction we had gotten for the treatment plant, the operations building, and the salt shed to be able to, in the future, should the town want to put solar panels up there, you guys could. So that's something that can be changed.
You can
For
put
sure.
panels on asphalt, but it's probably a better system that can last forever. But I don't think you're estimated. My point of actually asking the question was the level of detail of the plans for these estimates. It seems like there's a lot still to be fleshed out. If this is any example, because the plan called for an asphalt roof, so I'm assuming your estimator probably figured asphalt roof, not this metal panel.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he has
Yeah.
come for, but we'll,
Well, that was the mid-October plans, which are like,
Oh, I was looking at 90%. Was that meant?
look, yeah, the cost estimate, we got it like mid-October. We got the
Yeah.
plan, so we sent it to them and they had the first cost estimate for last month's CPC. So this isn't based on the new plans
No.
from like a couple weeks ago.
But even the new plants, Lauren, do the new plants show? They still show an asphalt.
I'd have to check. I do have the plans printed out here. I know we had delayed because I know there was so much back and forth. I know we had delayed a little bit on the salt shed. So I'd have to double check, and that's
Okay, so-
one of our checks as we go through.
So maybe I could be comforted that the level of detail on the plans for the architectural plans for the other buildings are a little more.
Oh,
complete
yes.
than
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I would, Dave, you can chime in on that, but I would say we've gone through a lot more with the treatment plant or the treatment building and the operations building.
Yes.
So yeah, I think, for all these reasons, it's, probably even more imperative to have a meeting and just go through it and, see where the differences are. And if, we're open to, if there's something that we looked at differently and it's more expensive or less expensive, we're open to that. And then we can get an idea of what we were both thinking. And so I think I had mentioned at a previous meeting too, but there's, some costs in here. We had kind of put that, I'll say that CAPE factor into it. You can kind of see where I did it, where these purple items are. We had done some factors based on some other bids that we had seen come in on the CAPE to, what we felt would better reflect what the current bidding climate is related to those items.
Good time.
Getting there, I think.
It's 5:05. Anybody have any last minute stuff? So we're gonna talk to DEP. You're gonna talk to DEP. You guys are gonna do the cost estimate meeting. And we're meeting again with capital projects in January. But we'll do our Tuesday meetings before that. Okay.
Could I just ask, would it be possible if at least maybe I was in attendance at any of the DEP meetings? I know, typically we would, be talking with them directly. And even if you just want me to sit in the background, but I just really want, the opportunity to know firsthand what they're thinking, answer any questions that they have that we could answer that might be harder for, Jackie or Ziad to answer.
Yeah, you could do that with Jackie and Ziad. The meeting that Rich and I have has been set up for all the Cape Cod managers because everyone has problems getting these permits.
Some of the draft regulations and the final.
Oh.
Okay, so that it's more political than it is.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But if we have a follow-up, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I would appreciate it.
All right.
Ziad, could I ask one quick question? The 20% Cape Cod factor that was applied, does that get applied against labor and material? It's such a big number. I certainly understand the labor aspect, but material wise?
Yeah, so I think he only accounted for labor because the plan, if you're a contractor from the outside of the Cape and coming from, let's say, Connecticut or something, you'll have to house your employees up here, you have the per diem and everything else. I think the material costs are the same, doesn't really matter. That 20% is only for material, for labor and per diem.
Okay, so he did not apply it to the material. He only applied it against the labor then?
Well,
Okay.
Ziad, I could be incorrect, but when I looked at the numbers, I think it's applied to the whole thing, labor and materials.
20% overall?
That's
Yeah.
what I thought I saw too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's, you're right, but I don't think that should be adequate because let's say you're buying a material from Aqua Aerobics and then you're installing it in Plymouth. What difference does it make?
Right.
Is it Plymouth or Eastham or Provincetown for that matter, right? Do you agree?
I think that was Steve's point, yeah.
Yes, I would agree with that.
So maybe
Yeah.
we should.
So
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
I'll double check with our guy just to make sure, but I thought the discussion that we had with him, because we kind of, when we looked at the 20%, like, well, is this legit? And he says it could be conservative, but it's not out of the question, right? And I think we did specifically talk about labor and expenses to be on Cape. more specifically the house employees and then expenses to kind of come and go from, from East Ham to where they live. And then paying per diem. That's what we thought. But maybe.
Yeah, he took it on the whole thing because it's $13.7 million on a $40 million project.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a contingency, so he was explaining it as during 60%, he just puts that factor on it because he didn't bake it into the numbers. So the
Okay, see,
the base numbers are so close. He's saying his base numbers if it wasn't on Cape Cod. So if it was just built, not on Cape Cod, it's this amount, but his factor is more just adding in, like Ziad was saying, all the loss of production and traffic and all the extras. And then when we get to the 90% or 100% cost estimate, that's not a separate number. He bakes it into everything else.
Okay.
So one thing also you could consider, like, I think if in his calculation, he kind of goes and assumes every sub and the GC and the file submitters, they're all going to be here for the duration at the same time, which you could probably think of a couple different ways. This is probably not going to be the case, right? If you're an earth guy, you're probably going to be here up front. The electricians are going to come in later in the process. Same folks, certain subs come in much later, and where you can't really apply that logic throughout the whole construction duration, right? That's what we wanted to kind of confirm with them. And maybe this call between us, you guys, and the estimator to kind of refine those numbers a little bit better to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, because I think he's marking that on the contingencies on everything. I think 50 times 0.2.
It's a big number for sure. So.
Yeah, actually, because he's basing that 20% on higher than 54 million, because even if it was 54 million, that's only 10.8. I should do my math right, but anyway.
Yeah,
anyway, we can talk.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep, thanks.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.